Like sands through the hourglass, those are the days of our lives and the dollars in our bank account. Today we'll be talking about, okay, I'm glad we did that. All right. Like sands through the hourglass, those are the days of our lives and the dollars in our bank account. Today we'll be talking about profit leaps. And before we get there, I want to ask a favor. Hit like and subscribe. It's free and it sure does help my channel. We're going to be talking about today the frustrations of profit leaps. And they are frustrating. And I've told you guys before, I'm a landlord. Been a landlord for over 25 years now. Wow. Well, anyway, one day when I was in corporate life and I had in my job, got a phone call from Sue. Now, Sue was a renter of mine. Matter of fact, Sue was my first renter. Now I think about it. Anyway, so Sue calls me and says, Chris, got a problem. So what's that, Sue? Now, Sue was one of my little ladies I like took her under my wing because she was my first. And she didn't have a lot of money. She goes, I got a water leak. City called me. My bill's higher than it's supposed to be. I go, okay, well, I'll be over there at lunchtime. So I took lunch, went to Sue's house, looking for the water leak. I'm not saying anything. So give me the bill. So I got the bill. And if being in a small community, it's pretty nice because if you call the city, they'll usually work with you because, nobody knows about the water leak until it's too late. And if you can work out something, they'll kind of forgive you or give you a one chance type thing. So I'm talking to the lady. I said, ma'am, on the phone. I said, hey, I'm here at Sue's house, blah, blah, blah. And sounds like we got a water leak. I said, I said, I can understand these numbers on this card. I said, what's this mean? Oh, it looks like you're about 100 over. I said, well, good. I said, 100 gallons ain't bad. That should be, we can fix that. She goes, no, sir, that 100 means it's 10,000 gallons over. I said, ma'am, I don't have a 10,000 gallon leak. I said, if I had 10,000 gallon leak, I probably couldn't have walked across the yard in my work shoes the way I did. Now, back then I dressed up in nice little business casual. But anyway, there's no leak. Come to find out the meter was wrong. And thank the Lord, everybody swapped the meter, fixed the problem, and I didn't have any issues. But the point being is that finding profit leaks are just as frustrating because it's a drip here, a drip there. And Lord help us if it's a $10,000. Like I'd rather use $100 if you're going to lose anything. But it comes down to money management. And a lot of my contractors think, the first thing they need to do is hire an estimator so they can get more sales. Well, estimator's great, but what you really need is an accountant to help you keep the sales you got, protect those, and find those little leaks you got. My daughter called me the other day and said, Dad, did you do Dave Ramsey? I said, I sure did. Now, if you don't know who Dave Ramsey is a Christian money man, basically, and he promotes. And his biggest thing is about budgets and budgeting your dollars. And a little side note, I love Dave Ramsey. I like Robert Kiyosaki, too. He's Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And both Dave and Ramsey and Robert Kiyosaki, they talk about the same thing, budgeting. That's very important. The one place they differ, and this is my little side note, is that Dave talks about he wants you to get out of debt. Robert Kiyosaki wants you to get into good debt. And that's a whole other episode for another time, but that's just something, if you get a chance, look that up, the difference between bad debt and good debt. Now, going back to what we're talking about. We're going to talk about the three biggest places that contractors and even your business where you leave money and lose money that we're not sure of and how we can find those. So I want to talk about the quoting your jobs. And I'll tell you what, I hate nickel and diamond people. Just hate it. When I first started my corporate job, long time ago, 1992 actually. And I worked for the second generation owner of the company, and he was actually already in his 70s. And when he passed away, it was in his 80s. But back then, Ovid Bell was his name. He come in and he told me a story. He said, Chris, because I was the estimator and I always gave the prices to the sales guy. He said, Chris, took my wife, Martha, to buy a car. Now, back then, cars didn't come with rear-view mirrors. And they negotiated the price. And Ovid said, I want a rear-view mirror. I said, okay, Mr. Bell, we'll get you one. And he got the invoice. And on the invoice, it was the amount they agreed to plus this rear-view mirror. And it wasn't the issue. He said, Chris, it's not the issue that I couldn't afford the mirror. It wasn't the issue that I wasn't okay with paying for the mirror. The issue was they never told him about the mirror price. They just said sure. And I remember that even today. It's like it was frustrating. I could see that being frustrating. You think about, you get a bill and you got something extra that you already anticipated. It's like going on Amazon and getting those damn freight charges you never expected. It's like, what the hell? And they do that little bait and switch. But the point being is, don't nickel and dime your clients. And one thing I do to help protect myself and, in a way, protect the clients is I do a contingency clause or contingency built into my price. And depending on what it is, I'll just tell a client, yeah, I'll do that. Don't worry about it. Or now it's a good time to tell me because if it had been later, I had to charge you. But all that good stuff is built in my number. But also, there are comes times where you got to do a change order. It's just more than what it's going to cost you. You didn't plan for that. And nor should you have to sometimes. So any change order is usually going to cost you some more time, more labor, more materials. And I say time, that's your time. You got to keep that in mind. So what I like to do is we say you got a 20-cent markup in your regular quote. Well, your change order, while you don't want them, and sometimes they're necessary, should be higher markup than your 20%. Make it 10% more, 15% more. Some of those things are just designed to keep the client at bay to decide that, that's not really necessary. Because the faster you get in, the faster you get out, the more money you're going to make. Now, it's my own damn fault. A couple months ago, we quoted a job. And I like to learn from my mistakes, and I hope you do too. I had quoted a job for a client and local guy. I know him, nice guy. And he's actually a business owner as well. And he said, well, I thought you had that in there. Well, no, I didn't have that price in there. Now, he goes, well, you didn't have it on your quote. I said, well, yeah, if it's not on my quote, it's not my bid. He said, but we talked about it. And come to find out, my sales guy had talked about it. I said, okay, that's fair enough. And we worked out a deal. So listen, you pay the materials, I'll pay the labor. It's just a miscommunication. And they thought that was reasonable. And I do too. Don't want to do it. But what really changed my solution is I'm putting everything on the quote. If it's additional, it's additional. Before we were taking our quotes and it's not in there, just take it out. I just make it additional. Or no, it's not there. And sometimes yes, no, or additional are the answers on my business quotes. And they're standardized quotes, so nobody can question it. It just makes it that much more simple. On a change order, we just talked about it, I want you to document everything. Now, before I had help in a team, hell, I had little notes in my phone on the contacts. I'd go to that customer and I'd write down, I type in there, well, I told them this much money. And hell, I had to set myself a reminder. And if I forgot, I need to bill for it when it comes time. And I was doing my own billing as well. Or I wouldn't even do that. I'd wait for the invoice to come in for additional materials. And that would be my trigger to remind myself, ooh, I got to bill that customer extra. I'm telling you what, don't do that if you can. Now, since then, I've got team members who come from other contractors and they brought me ideas of how they do it. And we send out change orders. We send out physical change orders. Elizabeth's really good at it. She'll email them. And there's times, the best times is that some clients send us a check for the change order before I even got it done. So, but the point being is that document everything. That way there's no question. Don't nickel and dime your people and so forth. Now, you might be different. And I'm not telling you how to do your estimates. That's something you got to decide. How you can present your bid to your client. How you're going to communicate, make sure everybody's on the same page. Now, that being said, I want to talk about bad estimating and the scope of work. Everything's going to do it. I wasted an hour of my time the other day. And I said yes to a job I should never said yes to. And so I always like making lemons out of lemonade. So I decided that, what can I learn from this? The good thing I learned from it was I showed up, I said, no, this is not a job we need to do. And the best part is that guy's going to appreciate, and he did appreciate me telling him that I didn't give him something. I also decided I'm going to send a friend over to him that could do that job. So not only am I providing my friend some help, I'm also providing that guy with a solution to his problem, but it wasn't me. So by doing all that, I learned that from Neiman Marcus. Matter of fact, Neiman Marcus back in the day when they first got started, they have a big Christmas catalog, and part of their customer service was to give people alternatives. If they didn't provide it or had a better price somewhere else, they would actually get. Can you imagine doing that now with the internet? That's how Amazon actually works. That they'll go out and shop prices and change the price for you if it's comparatively cheaper. But that's a side note. I wonder if they learned that from Bezos. I wonder if he learned that from Bezos, whatever his name is. Anyway, I wonder if you learned that from Neiman Marcus. That being said, I'm going. Damn, I'm getting some rabbit holes today. All right, let's go back to what I was talking about. I want you to talk about setting up standards. I want you to set about what you're going to do for your company, what you do best, and keep with that. We decided. I've told you before. I've done my last remodel, done my last add-on. I've done my last repair. That's not what we do. Now, I'm not talking about repairing stuff that we did ourselves. I'm talking about somebody calls and some job that we never did, never touched, and can you come fix it? Now, there's a fine line there, and you got to be control of your own business. You got to decide what's best for you. Have I ever done some repairs that I probably shouldn't have? Yeah. Is it because I'm trying to think big picture that those people can refer me on? Yes. Or I can just give them people that can solve it. But think about that. But most importantly, when it comes back to bad scheduling, or excuse me, bad estimating, is that you lose control of the scope of work. And that's what's important. You want to make sure that you stay within the agreement you made and what it is. And you tell them that up front. And that goes back to that writing the paperwork and so forth. And make sure you document it. Now, this last one, it'll get you in trouble. Matter of fact, this last one we bring up, it actually causes the first two. When you lose control of your job, or you take on jobs you don't need to, or even say yes to things you shouldn't, and that's because you're letting your cash flow get out of hand. You let that customer decide your cash flow. That's not good. And it causes those two problems because you're getting yourself in a bind. I got to have work. I got to have money. And you say yes to things you know you shouldn't do. And you end up funding other people's jobs. I've been down that road before. That's not a good feeling. I've been very fortunate, though. And some people have been so unfortunate they don't get paid. And there's a couple jobs I've done that same thing, and I've kicked myself in the butt. Now, one of the things I help to get around that is you ask for deposits. Or when I'm building houses, I get a draw schedule. Matter of fact, I get draws before I even start a job and tell them what I'm going to do with that money. Banks appreciate that. And they don't expect you to go out the money, and they don't care as long as their customer is paying the interest. So life goes on. But one of the things that helps you, it helps me, is my subs love me. Why? Because I got the money in hand and I pay them as soon as I get my invoice. You know what? They treat me right, I'm going to treat them right. And they come back and they do what they say. And when I got a little problem or need a little help, I call my sub. They are right there to help me out. What else do I do for money? I actually started charging for my quotes. Not all my quotes, but my house quotes, the ones that take a lot of time, a lot of effort. You can do it different ways. I charge for them and I give a little credit back if they decide to do the job for me. I have in the past given all the money back, depends on what I'm charging them. But people who come in to spend a big job, they know you got some planning costs. They know it. And if they want to go find somebody else that doesn't plan like I do, that's fine. I tell them they're saving money by coming to me and paying for me in advance because they're going to cost them a whole lot more if they don't plan later on when they're building a house. And that's probably one of the biggest expenses. We talked about that before. The house is the biggest expenditure of anybody for the most part. And if you plan in advance, it's going to save them money. Now, it's got to be that value thing, and you play that. But that's one of the most important parts. And that's also where that accountant I mentioned earlier bringing them. They can help you figure out your cash flow because cash flow hurts. Oh, what else I got going on? Don't get yourself in that bind. I actually heard stories. Old customers. I have never experienced this. I have heard stories, but people, I don't even know how the banks get in there, but they go to the bank, they get their loans for the house. And now they got access to all this money. And depending on how the customer's set up, and I don't do it this way, I am a build design contractor, but some do it cost plus. And so the banks allow for cost plus, and means that they're going to take the cost of the contractor says, this is what it cost me. I'm adding X% more, and everybody's happy. Well, that actually gives a customer almost like a blank check from the bank. And I've heard them going out and buying guns, and diamonds, and taking care of mama, hell, taking care of girlfriends because mama don't know about the girlfriend, but that, everybody gets in trouble. And then the bank comes and they're trying to figure out what the hell to do and who to pay and who not to pay. And sometimes they blame you because you never got the money. Well, hey, don't get yourself in that bind. With that being said, the whole scheme of this whole thing is all three of these solutions can be summed up in how you manage your money. You want to control what's coming in. That's getting the right sales. You want to control what's going out, and that's protect the scope of the work. And last but not least, you want to control when that money comes in, and that's your cash flow. Now, that sounds simple, and it can be if you really put some procedures in place and make it happen. Have people help you do that. If that's not your gig, whether that be the accountant or your office manager or whoever, but make that all work out. Biggest money leaks, when it all sums it up, the biggest money leaks come in construction, not from the big mistakes. If I had a 10,000-gallon water leak at Sue's house, it'd been a whole lot easier to figure out. It's those small ones. It's those drips here and there. And it's kind of like plumbing. You got to know where to look for that leak, or a mechanic where you got to look for that oil leak, that drip on the floor that just drives you nuts when you pull your car out of your garage. But you got to know where to look. And if that's something that you don't know how to look, find somebody that does that and make it happen, like an accountant. That's what they're there for. I ain't talking bookkeeper. I'm talking accountant. Somebody that knows how to read those forms, those reports, and so forth, and they can teach you on where to look. Just like the other day, Dave called me, my buddy, and he said, "Hey, I got this leak in the shower, and I can't find it." So he told me what was wrong. I said, "Go look there. Guarantee it. It's one or two things, and it sounds like what you're telling me. Go look in the spout. It's old, and after years and years of experience, I know exactly where to look for it." And guess what? That solved this problem. Now, guys, if you like what you heard today, and I hope you did, and want to learn ways of protecting your profits and saving your money, then hit like and subscribe so I can get notifications of things that I'm going to be talking about in the future. Always and always, God be with you till we meet again. This is Chris G., Hard Hat, the CEO.